I was like not going to get off the phone until he said yes. And I was
Right.
nervous and scared that like, and then afterwards I'm like, man, I got an extra 250 a month, right? That's amazing, right? And now like going over towards like asking for thousands of dollars and not feeling that nervous when you're at the beginning. I think all of us need to be thinking about and looking for these other pieces of like, how do we land big deals? It's great to go out there and close our carpet cleaner or whatever for $500 a month, but how do you get deals where you're going to get $50,000 a month? And you've got to be kind of like thinking about what this person needs and what this person's missing and what we have. And I think you've kind of done that on a bigger scale, which probably also sets you up to not really be afraid of these numbers. Like when we're like, hey, we're growing to like 25 million users or whatever, like those are big numbers to a lot of us. But I think after you've been through the reps a few times, I remember the first time when I was trying to ask my first client was in towing. I was trying to ask him for $250 a month. And I was like not going to get off the phone until he said yes. And I was
Right.
nervous and scared that like, and then afterwards I'm like, man, I got an extra 250 a month, right? That's amazing, right? And now like going over towards like asking for thousands of dollars and not feeling that nervous when you're at the beginning, it seems like it's a long way away, but it's not necessarily. It's just like, it's some reps away, right? And like,
Totally.
like Jeff was saying earlier, where you do it all day long, it's like you can really shorten that time frame, right? If we're trying to go fast and look sexy, it doesn't always mean let's run ads first. It also means like let's do everything that we possibly can, because that's going to accelerate this whole process. So I want to circle back now to Jeff. And so Jeff, I think you have a unique perspective on this business model, and you spent time as an attorney before it like wasn't even a thought, right? And I think you have a pretty good story about how how did you hear about, where were you, and like how did that go down? I know there's some like comedy hiding in there.
Comedy, I'm not sure if there's comedy, but it was yeah, I guess poetic justice somehow. Alchemy for sure. When I was an attorney, I worked for a big company and I did a lot of special projects. I kind of during the downturn reinvented myself. And so I was always in this entrepreneurial mindset, but I was in this big company. So I was an entrepreneur, I guess they call it, on Forbes.com or whatever. And so I took a hold of all of these projects that I helped create. And then it required marketing, product development, a lot of outreach to partnerships with software platforms and all this different stuff. We didn't have an unlimited budget, so I was being funded, right? But I didn't have that end of the month fear of paying the rent because I was on the payroll. So I got all of this great experience, and when I came out of that, sort of corporate environment, I really wanted to be in the entrepreneurial space. And so I was they'd say like this, never give up. So I'm just banging on it. I went in with a startup that was in crowdfunding for real estate. I was general counsel. It got funded and they kicked me out before I vested. And so that was, devastating for me. And so I tried to reinvent myself after that. And a lot of it was sort of driving towards marketing and, how do I get the business development mindset together and put the pieces of the puzzle together, much like Gabe was describing, because I had a huge network from being in corporate legal for 10 years. I was networking nonstop during that time. So I had a big Rolodex, so to speak. And, I just went down so many different pathways and ended up starting this contracting company with a friend of mine. And that's kind of the direction that we were going. And, it wasn't going as well as I wanted it to. I had a bunch of different experiences that lend some kind of insight into being successful. So I came across, and Shiv, took my call, and I was basically sold. It was, what's the number, right? So I got in and started down the path, and that's when I got the GMBs and all of that.
Yeah, cool.
Super important. I think two questions, and one of them you can for sure answer. The other one you don't have to. One, the people got to know that's a real background. So like, I think there was some confusion in the chat about how amazing your background is, and your plant game is on point. So can you confirm that that is a real background?
Real background.
It's a real background. Are you able to share what the startup that you were at? If not, totally understood.
Yeah, but, it's defunct now. It's called, it was Asset Avenue.
Yeah.
And it was one of the early crowdfunding startups around LA. There were 3 or 4 of them that were based there. And I had a connection who was one of the founders, and he brought me in as general counsel, and we were going to kill it. And, you know, crowdfunding for real estate is, you know, not a really that great of a model, honestly.
Yeah.
It's not really as great.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I'm kind of on, like comparing those industries. If you look at like traditional Silicon Valley, you know, like, hey, moonshot kind of a thing, you know, and you compare that to what we've learned, and even seen like what Patrick, like what you've built is pretty incredible. That it's so funny to see like that Silicon Valley style perspective on like, we're just going to spend a F ton of money to try to like build this thing. Like what are some of the things that drew you to this model, and you're seeing work better than maybe that model?
Well, that was, you know, those were all big unicorn ideas, you know, go put the in the universe and all of that. And it didn't like hit home for me. Like I couldn't get behind it as much as, like, I got a text right before this call, and it's from a client that I've been trying to work with for a while. And he's taking some of the calls from those sites that I created in the beginning. So he's trying to qualify himself with me. And he's like, I'm getting better at the bids, and I'm hoping I'm going to close more soon. I'll let you know. And I'm just like, sweet, man. And he texted me back and he says, I don't know why you believe in me so much, but I will never forget you were there for me when this company was nothing. And I'm like, dude, I believe in you because you believe in yourself, you know? So to be able to like manage clients like that and have real connections with people, you know, and Patrick runs his agency this way. It's really people over profits. I mean, there's profits are important, right? But people are very important too.